Maen is a micro brand that has been around for a very long time, but it's actually the very first time I'm reviewing one of their watches, and I am quite impressed. Is it a perfect watch? It's not, but it does have a lot of qualities, which we'll get into in this video. As always, I'll point out all the positives and the negatives as I find them, but now let's talk about the case and the dimensions. This watch features a 36mm case diameter. It's about 46mm from one lug to another. The lug opening is 20mm, and it's about 12.6mm in case height, including this boxed sapphire crystal. The case and the bracelet are both made out of 316L stainless steel, and it features a two-tone finish. There is a satin finish on top of the lugs and a high polish finish on the sides of the case. There's also a satin finish on the top of this bezel. The finish execution on this case is great. It has nice and sharp transitions between the high polish and the satin finishes. I also like the case shape. It has a bit of a rounded off edges, kind of reminds me of a Rolex Datejust. It sits on the wrist better, and it also creates an illusion of a slimmer watch. This is not a thick watch by any means, but because of the case construction and the way this case kind of curves in, it creates an illusion of this watch being even slimmer. On the side of the case, you will find a crown. It's a push-pull style crown. It's not screwed down, and it is signed with Maen logo. At the 2 o'clock position, you will find a pusher. That's the pusher to adjust the month complication, because this, of course, is a triple calendar watch. It features both day, date, and a month complications. The case back is a screw down case back, but it is solid. You don't get a window, you don't get any engraving, which is a bit of a letdown. I wish it was maybe a display case back or maybe an engraving of some sort. This watch comes with 50 meters of water resistance. I'm guessing because of that pusher at the 2 o'clock position, they couldn't really push the water resistance too high. I mean, 50 meters is enough for this type of watch, sort of your everyday casual type timepiece. At the front of the watch, you will find a boxed and slightly domed sapphire crystal with some AR coating. The AR coating is excellent, and overall I think the case balance and the design of the case is executed really well. This model is available with 6 different dial variations. This sort of gray on gray is my favorite. That's the one that I'm reviewing, although if you want a little bit more color, other versions are also available. On the first glance, this dial is very clean and well laid out. However, if you look closely, you will realize that this is actually quite a complex dial. And what I mean by that, it has quite a few different layers. Like for example, the 2 sub-registers, the one at the 3 o'clock position and the one at the 9 o'clock position. The 3 o'clock position register reads the month. The one at the 9 o'clock position reads days of the week. They're both kind of sunken in. They are recessed into the dial, which creates this feeling of depth. They also have a different finish to the rest of the dial. They feature this sort of grainy finish, which plays pretty well against the smooth finish on the rest of the dial. On the same sort of level is also the rail track around the dial. So that is also sort of sunken in. Again, creates this illusion of multiple layers. On this rail track around the dial, that's where you also find the lume pips. This watch does have lume, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute here or so. And finally, the sort of centerpiece of the dial, the main portion, if you will, that features a sunburst effect. It also features a smooth finish, not too much writing, just the logo by the 12 o'clock position, and automatic Brooklyn 36 written closer to the 6 o'clock position. That's where you find the date complication. Also on the main portion of the dial, you have applied indexes for hour marks, and there's a double index at the 12 o'clock position. Now these applied indexes in combination with recessed subdials and this sort of recessed minute track around the dial create this illusion, create this design feature of layered dial, which is really impressive for a watch that's under 13 millimeters in case height. So I'm really pleased with the way this dial is designed and executed. It's not easy to pull off all these layers on such a slim watch. Lastly, the set of hands, they're sort of simple, clean designed, and they feature this strip of lume. Here's the lume shot for your reference. As you can see, the lume is fine. It's nothing to write home about, but for this type of watch, I think it's good enough. By default, this watch comes on a Jubilee style bracelet. We've seen these bracelets on so many different watches, most notably, of course, Rolex watches. We have a two-tone finish on this bracelet. You have satin finish on the outer links and a high polish finish on the inner links. Also, the sides of the bracelet are finished with high polish. The one thing that I'm not so keen on with this bracelet is the butterfly clasp. I mean, it's okay, the mechanism works as it's supposed to, and you do have this sort of Maen logo feature on one of the sides, so there is the correct way to close this bracelet. You first have to fold one side and then the other. You can't do it the other way. Kind of reminds me of AP watches. And now, usually on this channel, I would complain about butterfly clasp, and currently I am complaining about this butterfly clasp, but in all honesty, it's not too bad because these links are quite small, so you can get a pretty comfortable fit on your wrist. It's not like you have big links where if you remove a link, the bracelet becomes too tight, or if you add a link, the bracelet becomes too large and there are no micro adjustments. These links are quite small, so you can get a comfortable fit, although I still would prefer a standard scissor clasp. I think it would just work better for this watch, and in general, that's my personal preference. Also, you do use screws for resizing of this bracelet, which is wonderful. It just makes your job much easier. On my 7¼ wrist, I think the watch actually fits pretty well. Now, I know that a lot of people will not like this size. To a lot of people, they have a preference for larger watches, 40mm and above. Some people just have very large wrists, so they prefer larger watches because the watches look too small for them. On my size of wrist, I think it actually fits really well. I owned a Rolex Datejust 36mm for many years, and I never felt like I needed a bigger watch. And in a lot of ways, this watch reminds me of a Rolex Datejust, especially the way it fits on the wrist. In general, it doesn't really have any awkward angles. It fits nice and comfortably, and the bracelet does taper from 20mm by the lugs all the way down to about 16mm by the clasp. So in general, you put this watch on and you kind of forget that you are wearing it. In my opinion, the size of this watch is going to be its either biggest strength or biggest weakness. For those of us who like smaller watches, we're going to find this size wonderful. For the people who prefer bigger watches, they will absolutely write this watch off because it's too small. Do I wish it was larger? Not really. I mean, they could have pushed this size to about 38mm, but I don't think it's necessary. I think this size wears quite well for this sort of timepiece and for this design. So overall, I'm happy that they kept it at 36. These models are powered by the Miyota Caliber 9122 automatic movement. It beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour. It has 40 hours of power reserve and 26 joules. Now this, of course, is a triple date complication movement, so they had to use a movement like this. There aren't too many choices of movements in this price category. And in general, Miyota 9 series movements have a pretty good reputation in the watch industry. They are generally reliable and easy to service. The one sort of negative with these movements is the fact that the rotor can be a little bit loud. So if you're not used to that sort of thing, you will feel a little bit of vibration and you will hear a bit of noise on the watch. But other than that, I find these movements to be excellent. Overall, I think Maen did a great job with this watch. I'm quite impressed with the build quality, the overall balance of the design, and the way the watch wears on my wrist. Do I wish it had a standard scissor clasp? Yes, but other than that, I think they did a great job. One suggestion that I have for them is make a watch like this with a chronograph complication. I think this layout looks really good. It looks really balanced, and I can't help but think this exact watch with a chronograph complication instead of the triple date would look kick-ass, and I think it would be quite popular with the watch enthusiasts. What do you think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about this watch. Would you like to see a chronograph version of this watch? I always enjoy reading your comments. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.